We're going to talk about chips today. So, chips are the new arms race. I want you to keep this in mind going forward. We're going to be discussing. This is one of those topics that we're going to be revisiting. It's connected to China, of course. It's also because China is our mortal enemy at this point, and we should be aware of that. They're proliferating arms sales. They're proliferating all kinds of evil sponsored government actors against us. They're supporting North Korea. They're supporting Iran. They're supporting a number of state-sponsored terrorist factions to go against us. This is all. They're supporting the cartels in Mexico. They're helping. They're joining them in their ability to send in illegal drugs to our country, and also pushing a fifth column into our country as well through the back door, through across the border. So this is something that we're going to be revisiting. This is another piece of the overall puzzle of China. It's like a giant web, and this is one more piece. So chips. So, brother, when we talk about chips, we are what do we mean when I say chips? Well, we don't mean potato chips. We don't mean poker chips, although there is a bit of a gambling in this whole thing. We don't mean the 1970s show Chips, which is the California Highway Patrol.
That was a great show. I love that show.
We do not mean chocolate chips as much as I like chocolate chips, and we do not mean chocolate chips. And that is not a racial thing, just to be clear. Next, and if you're for those of you who are transplants from the British world, we do not mean fish and chips either. So I want to make that clear across the board. What we do mean is computer chips. Precisely, we're talking about the modern world that we live in. Everything is run by the computer chip, whether it's the phone that you're using right now to watch us, the computer you're using to message your friends or to do your research, or the power grid that is being run right now that's keeping your house lit. It is all run by computers that is run by these chips. Now, these chips are very important to the history of the world. And some people have said this is the new oil. So in historical context, we're going to be talking about what would be one of the reasons that China would go to war with the United States. John, do you remember what country went to war with the United States supposedly because of oil? And they bombed us because they were worried they're going to lose all their oil. Do you remember what country that was?
Oh, man, I hate quizzes. Why do I get used as a prop? Does it begin with J?
Yes. And ends in a pan. And ends in a pan.
Jinxapan?
Japan. Okay,
Jinxapan.
So the story goes, World War II started because the United States, they bombed Pearl Harbor because Japan was not going to have access to oil anymore, and so they had a choice. They could either run out of oil or go to war. That's what a lot of the anti-American groups want to tell you, that is America's embargoing. Same reason, by the way, John, that they're using about Cuba, is that it's America's fault because of our embargo. It was America's fault because, with Japan, because we were taking the oil away from Japan. Except for, just like Cuba, people, these Hate America Club members don't bother to look at why we had the embargo in place. At the time, while we did it with Japan, was because Japan was raping Nanking. It was destroying. It was invading. It was being an aggressor in the Asian world. It was not stopping because of borders, and it kept on. It didn't care what it did to the Chinese because it saw them as a sub-race. And so just like, what we would do, what we should be doing now with Cuba, they put an embargo to stop the aggression, to say to Japan, hey, stop what you're doing and we'll let the oil flow. Because at that time, as well as I do, that the largest exporter of oil, just like it is today, was the United States. The United States was the only source for Japan because there was so much oil being used up for the war in Europe. So consequently, a lot of people like to blame the United States for starting World War II, when in fact it was Japanese aggression. So, this is something we need to keep in mind going forward, because this is going to be the same kind of mentality that's going to be dumped on us when China decides to the balloon to go up against Taiwan or to try to pick a fight with us, it's all to be blamed on America. It's America's fault. We're the bad guys because that's what they do when they want to make an excuse for doing evil things. And of course, the Hate America Club that we have in our country is going to follow along like good, useful idiots. So I want to keep in mind, John, that all this stuff here, this new arms race the chips are the new arms race, right? But there's because what was the old arms race? It was, John. What was the old arms race?
You didn't tell me before the show, so I don't remember.
Nuclear weapons, John. Come on, nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons.
You say
remember,
so.
Reagan said, "Hey, we've got these nuclear weapons. We're holding on to them, and they're just there as a deterrent, right?" So
Stealth.
John, I don't mean
right.
John. When I say nuclear, I don't mean nuclear power. Okay, what do I mean? I mean nuclear bombs. We were always threatening that we were going to go to war. The idea of MAD. This was important to America. Why? Because when we look at this, America is standing strong, not because we just have a large military, but because we're a free country. And part of that freedom allows us to be an advanced country. So let's talk about Chinese aggression will cause the war of the next war, and it won't be from America cutting off the flow of computer chips. It'll be because China, as you know, brother, thinks that the entire world, under the mandate of heaven, the entire world, everything under the sun is Chinese territory. So ultimately, their acts of aggression are going to be based on that knowledge. That's saying we're going to conquer the world, and that's it. They're going to say we have every right to Taiwan. We have every right to Russia, to Siberia. We have every right to Africa. We have every right to the Americas because everything is under the sun is Chinese by right. So, brother, today, what is the deal with the chips? I mentioned that these computer chips, what's the deal with them? So some of the information that we need to know is where are the most of the chips come from Taiwan. 92% of the chips that are made, the high end of the chips are made in Taiwan. They're the best chips. They're the most capable chips. Now, so you measure chips by size. And so if you want to look down at the smallest is 5 nanometers, which just a little bit of information. By next year, the Taiwanese expect to be able to make a 3 nanometer size chip. Now, to be clear, the size of the COVID vaccine, COVID virus is 9 to 12 nanometers. So you're looking at incredibly tiny chips that are being produced that are helping to run everything. So the biggest two producers are South Korea with Samsung and Taiwan with
Wait a minute.
TSMC.
How small they are? 3 nanograms?
3 nanometers.
Is that nanometers? Nanometers. Is that still? Is that about the size of Fauci's brain?
Probably.
Can it pass through a mask?
I'm not too sure, but yes, they can pass through a mask. So I want to make sure that when I said 92% of the high end ones, that's the 5 nanometers or smaller, that comes from Taiwan. But South Korea does a really good job. They do a whole bunch. They're doing a very good job, but they're more mass production with Samsung and other types of production. So why is this so important? Well, the United States is at 10 nanometers and China is at 14 nanometers. China is way behind because the reason why Taiwan's able to make such small chips isn't because they have the intellectual power on their campus. The reason why is, and they don't have the ability to make the machines to make those chips. The only place that has the ability to design the software, design the hardware, to make the chips, and to actually come up with how to make them is the United States, John. So we are the ones who are actually capable of doing the very small chips. China can't get past 14. So they don't have the ability to do any of that. They're buying their equipment from us to build what they're making. So
why are we selling to them? Oh my God.
Well, that's part of the problem. The idea I want to keep in mind that Taiwan may be the manufacturing hub, and they're talking about expanding. They're actually in the process of expanding in Arizona to have a production facility there along with Intel. They're planning on doing that there. Taiwan. Taiwan is planning on doing that. And to be precise, TSMC, which is Taiwan Supplies of microchips or something like that. They are planning on building in Arizona, which would be great because then that would give us a guaranteed supply, but it also makes sense because we're all that brain power coming from, it's coming from here. So China is 15 years at least behind us.
Really?
But
That,
they're
15 years.
John, it takes an incredible amount of money and technology to get to where we are. So much, though, you'll note that if for some reason we didn't have Taiwan producing, like say China took it over tomorrow, it would take us, the United States, we understand that we're the ones, the brainchild behind it, we're the ones who build the machines. It would take us 3 to 5 years and $350 billion to make up what Taiwan has been doing for years. So, keep this in mind that this can all be changed by one event, Taiwan being taken over by China.
Is this the Republicans' 51st state then? Maybe we should make this.
It should be something's going to have to be done about this.
We're going to get screwed a little bit if we don't.
Well, I mean, China. The problem also with China is they have a plan that by 2030 they're going to have 95% of the chips that they use are going to be made in China. John, there's simply no way for that to happen. They've been throwing billions of dollars at this for years now. And because of their corrupt totalitarian system, they can't get their feet underneath them. But whatever system that they try to put together, they have all these companies they're putting $35-45 billion in, and these companies are closing within 2 or 3 years. They're partnering with other companies, and they're still closing because there's a corruption within the system. People are filling their pockets, and they're not trying to get the job done. So, I mean, this is what happens. The problem with the totalitarian state is they're only out for themselves. This is truly the thing that the so-called anti-capitalists should be afraid of, because the totalitarian state is only the people at the top are the ones that are really interested in getting the money. Everyone else is just.
AOC gets her. What's that that electric car? She's got her. What's that electric car she's driving around?
Tesla.
Tesla. Yeah, she gets Tesla, and everybody else has to take the bus.
Yes. So yeah, that's the way it is. So they're all about themselves. They're not about the building something for the next generation. Which in America, that's what we want to do. We're building for the next generation because we know that we want our kids to have a good future. The totalitarians in China don't care. They're going to live to 90, and they don't care what happens after that. So, brother, the China solution to the chip gap is to buy Western companies, steal technology.
You call that the chip gap?
I did call it the chip gap. You caught that? Yeah, you know what movie that's from, right?
Now what?
The Doomsday Gap.
Okay.
Dr. Strangelove.
I hate that movie. All right.
but come on, Peter Sellers does a great job.
One of these days, I'm going to do a BP, Ballistic Patriot, on that guy.
That's fine. Peter Sellers?
And the greatest general America's ever produced. But
all right, so they want to steal technologies and trade secrets, or they want to hire employees, but they want to hire employees from these Western companies, which they've done, by the way. 3,000 Taiwanese engineers have been bought and brought over to China itself. But John, the biggest thing they could do is conquer Taiwan. I want to emphasize that. By conquering Taiwan, they get 15 years boost, even probably like 20 years boost to be ahead of us in production. So you got to keep that in mind, John, that the chip gap is right there in front of you. So why can China get away with this? Why can China get away with stealing this stuff? And what is their ultimate plan, brother? What they want to do is they have the biggest market of chips. They're buying the most chips from everybody. They're buying them, whether it's for their electricity, whether it's for their phones, because they got 1 billion people, John. And 1 billion phones is 1 billion chips. So they have a tremendous market power. If you want to work in China, you can't just open up a storefront and start working there. In China, because it's a totalitarian state, because they control everything, because they get to dictate what happens and what doesn't happen. They say, hey, folks, if you want to work in China, If you want to sell stuff in China, if you want to make money in China, you have to partner with one of our companies. And thus, John, when they partner with one of our companies, what are they doing? They're at that moment then joining companies. And guess what China gets access to the moment they're joined? All the tech secrets.
Yep.
So they get all the tech secrets by doing that. That's another way that they're doing it. That's because they have power. And many of these companies, of course, they're owned by the Chinese government. So automatically they're connected to the Chinese military. I like how the Biden administration and the media like to say, oh, they're connected to the China military. These companies may or may not be connected to China. They're all connected. If they're owned by the government, they're all connected to the Chinese military. That's the way their system works. So, brother, these three companies, this is the size of their market. So what they're selling, they're making money off of 66% of their money comes from China. Qualcomm, Intel, a quarter. Micron, 57%. So, John, how do they decouple from China if there's dependence so much? And I want to make a point. It costs a lot of money, a lot of upfront money in order to make new chips. To get that down to 3 nanometers cost billions of dollars. It wasn't something you could open up the piggy bank and pull up some money. You had to plan years and years ahead, and you had to have a killing when it comes to making money in order to plan to make that chip and to come up with everything needed to back it up. How do they decouple, brother? How do they decouple? You have any ideas before I tell you?
No.
No quiz. Okay, that's all right. So how do they decouple? Well, the solution to the decouple problem, of course, comes from your friend of mine, the greatest president that we've had since Reagan, the greatest president since Reagan. President Donald Trump came up with this, and he said, that we need to find new markets for everything, right? Decouple from China, find new markets that are not repressive, totalitarian, dictatorships, evil, corrupt, and genocidal. Find the evil kind of markets for us to find. And of course, Sean, they're out there. They're all over the place, right? We have places like India, Australia. We have Europe, which, Africa. There's all kinds of markets out there that would be more than willing to buy these chips if we said to China, we're not selling there anymore. But we have to have the will, the economic will, the leadership will in the White House to do this. And we have to have the leadership, more importantly, in the Congress to push this. We need this to happen. We need somebody to say, we're not selling any more chips or allowing our chips to be sold, or any American company is no longer allowed to make a marriage deal with China because a national security threat. China is the national security threat to our country. It is larger than racism, John, larger than climate change. It is larger than all the other problems put together.
It's not going to matter in 2035 because AOC, she says we're going to be wiped out by climate change, and you can't say that.
Well, I'm just laying it out there, brother, that the idea is we need to fix this. But I will tell you this, brother. This new arms race, I guarantee you America is going to win. Why will America win this race, John? Because America believes, as long as we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, we are freedom-loving people, we fight for freedom, we are a country that is by far looking to have liberty, and if we, as you said in one of our previous shows, we are the people who have the ideas that spring up from within. They're not held down by a totalitarian state. They're encouraged in a free state. And brother, that is my show.